So good afternoon once again. We are starting off our meeting. Sorry, we are slightly late, but in the interest of time, we are going to proceed. So I want to welcome all of you again for this particular forum. This is the second of a series of webinars that we are having in Safaricom. And today we are having a very interesting topic, which I'm sure is useful to all of us. We'll be talking about internet and COVID-19 and just trying to see the issues around internet risk as regards children and how we can be able to mitigate around those particular issues. So we have a number of panelists who are going to join us, and I'll be introducing them shortly. But the whole idea behind this forum today is that since the COVID-19 pandemic struck in our country, of course, the first action that was taken by the government was to close schools. That means that we have had to be with our children at home. So they're spending so much time at home. And of course, most of them are having access to internet. So most of that time is spent on internet, accessing different sites, games and all that. And then one of the major concerns, particularly for parents, has been what are these children accessing? What kind of information are they getting from internet? And how is that information impacting on them? So there have been cases of risk involved with access to internet. And we have had incidences where children have actually been bullied online. Some have been abused, have been risk, parents concerned about maybe children coming across information that can radicalize them, for instance. And because when your child is on the internet, you are not very much sure what exactly they're accessing and how that information is impacting on them. So while internet has become more or less like a basic need, because in this kind of period, we realize that we have to do a number of things online. I think it has also come with a number of risks, particularly to the children, that we need to start reflecting on and understand how best can we be able to ensure that while we make use of technology to go about our day-to-day business, we are also putting in place adequate measures to safeguard our children and ensure that they are not falling into a situation where they can be harmed or they can get information that is inappropriate. So that is the background why we thought that we need to have this discussion and get to understand from various players in the sector, and of course, even from the parents and even the children themselves, what exactly are the issues around internet risk? And most importantly, what do we need to do as various stakeholders to ensure that we are putting in place measures and mechanisms that will make internet use more of a benefit, a risk, have a negative impact. So to enable us understand some of these issues, we put together a panelist that are going to talk to us on the subject. And after that, we are also going to have an opportunity just to engage them. A number of you had sent advanced questions, which we have shared with the panelists. And of course, we'll be happy to hear their responses. So we have Agnes Okello. Agnes Okello is a manager on public policy at Safaricom. And like I mentioned earlier, Safaricom is our partner in this initiative, and they have been very, very active and interested on how they can ensure that while people are using internet at home or wherever they are, our children are safe. So Agnes is going to talk to us more about Safaricom's perspective on the subject of discussion, and also just try to make us understand what are some of the mitigation measures perhaps we need to put in place to ensure that we are keeping our children safe. We also have Mr. Nicholas Mayo, who is the chairman of National Parents Association. And like I mentioned earlier, parents are increasingly getting concerned about how internet is impacting on their children. So as the chairman of Parents Association, Mr. Mayo will be able to have a reflection with us on what are the fears of the parents, what are the concerns, and what are some of the things they expect to be in place to ensure that the children are safe. We have Ms. Caroline Muyanki, who is the acting manager for research and consumer information at the Communications Authority of Kenya. As you all know, Communication Authority of Kenya is a regulator in the sector, and they have the responsibility to ensure that we have adequate framework and enabling environment that will ensure that our children or the various actors in the sector are actually putting adequate safeguards to protect our children. Caroline will speak to us from the perspective of the regulator and just share with us some of the measures or mechanisms that are putting in place to address the issues of internet risk. We've also decided to bring on board the people that we are talking about today. Children, but not in this case, not children, but young adults, so to speak. People who are accessing the internet and are making use of it on a daily basis and share with us their experiences. So we are going to have Razoa Kokubanze. Razoa Kokubanze is in grade 11 and is a student from Garden Ridgeways Resident Associations. And she's going to share with us what her experience is using the internet, especially during this pandemic period, and what are some of the challenges or issues she's come across, and perhaps what her views could be in terms of how we can be able to protect them or make it better with the internet. We also have Emmanuel Uyumba. These are from this student from Sokumau Resident Associations. These two are going to take just a few minutes just to tell us, but it's also always good to hear from the horse's mouth. And then from there, we're able to engage. So ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to take much time, but as always, we are going to have just a few house rules, make us have a seamless session. And one of them, of course, is that we encourage participants, if you have a question to ask, you can post that on the chat box, and then you're able to direct that to the relevant panelists. We may have an opportunity for a few of the participants to ask direct questions, but like I mentioned, most of the questions are shared in advance, and we received a number of questions which we have shared with the panelists. So most likely in that presentation, they'll be able to respond to those questions as we go along. But if there's something that you think is not covered, feel free to share that chat box, and we might also give a few people a chance to ask questions. And when you have that opportunity, please make it brief and to the point. Then after the presentation, we'll have an engagement with the panelists. Our hashtag on Twitter is hashtag Child Online Protection, and we also have hashtag Safaricom forum, so you can use both of them. And of course, remember to tag us. Our Twitter handle is Kara_cares KE. We also have the proceedings that should go on live on Facebook. So some of you could be able to follow that on Facebook. So without taking much time, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to now invite Ms. Agnes Okello from Safaricom to talk to us about the subject of discussion, and then we're able to go to the next presenter. So Agnes, if you can hear me, please take the floor.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. Apologies for having started a bit late. So on that note, I will just dive into the subject that we are discussing today, which is internet and COVID-19 and how to keep our children safe from the internet risks during this pandemic. So with the pandemic having happened on us, say in Kenya around March of this year, like it has been pointed out before, the government very quickly closed schools, and we found ourselves with our children at home. And it is a dreadful thing. It is a beautiful thing. We didn't know what to do with them, but we had to find what to do with them. But then most schools very quickly came to our rescue and said, look, we don't have to put at halt or on halt studying altogether. We can provide you classes online. And so a lot of us found ourselves scrambling for laptops and internet connections to be able to get our children to continue learning online. And it gave us some reprieve, because then they could continue with their program and not spend the whole day in front of the TVs and following us around the house, because also most of us were working from home. And so we were very happy to start them off on the online classes, but lo and behold, another fear emerged. So these children are in classes, they're online, they are chatting with each other. Some of them have already learned how to navigate. They know how to mute their microphones and put off their cameras, and then they go off and do other things on those laptops, while we are seated on our laptops in a separate room, probably in a Zoom call or in Teams doing some work, and we assume that the children are learning as they would be learning in class. So it dawns on us that we are raising digital natives. These are people whose worst fears is no Wi-Fi and low battery. When I grew up, what we feared was, our parents walking in and finding you without a sweater, and it's in the evening, and then your punishment would be to take a cold shower. But now we have people who their fears are, you've not paid for Wi-Fi. How am I supposed to attend my online classes? Classes aside, everything else came online. So we had church online, we are shopping online, we are schooling them online. Because we cannot visit grandma and grandpa and aunties and uncles, we are interacting with them online. And so I've had enough parents, myself included, being told that now I need a phone of my own, because if I need to video call grandma or talk to my cousins, then I need a phone of my own. And a lot of us who were hesitant to have children join the online world had no option. This was forced on us. So COVID came and changed a lot of things, and it has actually pushed the internet down our throats for our children. And so there is no avoiding having children online, but of course there are all those dangers that come with them being online. And what are these dangers? Why do we need to protect the children? When we talk about children's safety online, then we have to address what dangers are there. So back in the day, the dangers that we faced were, talking to strangers who could offer you sweets and, take you away from your parents and sell you off, and we would be warned or told, don't talk to strangers. And if you visited only people who were known and you did not talk to any strangers outside, then you were safe enough. At least your parents knew if she's not or he's not in this house, then he could be at so-and-so's house. But right now, what are the fears or what are the dangers that our children are facing online? We know which room they're in. I can see my child seated in the sitting room, or they're in their bedroom. They're seated there with a gadget, but they could be anywhere in the world, courtesy of that gadget and the internet. And so other dangers have come up. The strangers who used to approach us face to face are now approaching them online. And they're coming with attractive offers of games that they lure them into. We have children who have been radicalized online. How do they do that? So there's something called grooming, which, somebody befriends a child either through a game, or, they pose for them something very attractive, even through apps, which they say you can download this app and then play this game, and then they need to buy something, and then now they need to interact with other people and play that game with people who are not necessarily in the room with them. And through that, they are able to get access to our children. These people can pose as children themselves, because through the internet, I cannot see that this is a 40-year-old man or a 70-year-old woman who is playing with my child. They can put nice photos that make them look like very young children, and they can interact with them playing games, and then they start chatting with them, and they make offers to them or challenges, asking them, can you do this? Have you done that? Have you ever tried this? And they also ask them things like their addresses. So which country are you in? Where do you live? Who lives with you? Does your phone or your tab or the laptop you're using have a camera? Have you ever tried to take a photo with it? Have you ever tried taking a photo without your top on? I bet you cannot do that. And they get these children to do a lot of things without necessarily having met them or being in their environment. There are people who could be, miles away from them. And then we also have cyberbullying. We've heard of instances where people have committed suicide because they have posted things on social media in the hope to gain popularity, and instead they get cyberbullied for it. Like the girls will be told, oh, your photo doesn't look very nice, you don't look very attractive, or you think you're very beautiful and you're not, or you are not very intelligent. And that has an impact on their emotion. And sadly, a lot of them have even lost their lives on that. And then there are those sexual predators who prey on our children online and present to them content that is not palatable or is not favorable for children. And then there's also something called identity theft. And so you see all these dangers that our children are exposed to courtesy of the internet. We need to do something about it. When I say we, who am I referring to? Who are the people who are involved in this? Primarily, I start with the person who gives that child access to the internet at home. So there's an obligation on us as parents to be able to give access to our children, to know what are they accessing, who are they interacting with, what are they doing with this internet at what times. And so it is our central obligation to interact with our children very closely and monitor what are they doing, how do they do it. There's this game that is currently very popular among kids. It's called Roblox. And for the longest time, I had tried to ward off my child from it and say, no, you cannot do that. If you're going to play a game, then you have to play a game either on the table, on the floor, which I can see. But then you can only do that for so long. And so last week, I very quickly caught on, and I have had to sit with the child and see how are they playing it, what are the rules, who are the people involved, so that I know these are the dangers that he's likely to face when he's playing that game, and how do I protect him. Parents also have an obligation to educate their children on the dangers that are there on the internet, and empower them to take care of themselves on the internet. So keep themselves safe, not necessarily always being with them to protect them, but we also have to empower them to be able to use the internet safely. That if in the incident or in the event that you have something else to attend to, and we've all experienced this, when you have work, you are in a webinar like this one, and then there's a child there telling you, or they're playing a game and they need your help, there is something that has popped up, do I click on it, do I not? And you just want to shoo them away so that you can continue with your webinar or with your work meeting, and then they end up clicking on things that are not appropriate for them. So we also need to empower them to learn that not everything that pops up on the websites or on the apps that they use are good for them to download and play with. And I think also have very candid conversations with them around the dangers that they're facing and what they can do. Say, for example, they inadvertently downloaded something they're not sure about. They should be able to come to us and say, Mom, Dad, look, I think I downloaded something here when I needed your guidance, but you're not available. Please have a look at it and see, is it good for me to consume or not? We also have social media platforms. Social media is, I think, the biggest hype now amongst our digital natives. They all want to be on Facebook, on Instagram. They want to do TikTok. And so these platforms also have an obligation, and they're a stakeholder in keeping our children safe. And by this, what do I mean? These platforms owe it to us or to the children to come up with ways of filtering their subscriptions, to ensure that the people that they're subscribing or who are subscribing to their platforms are actually of the right age to consume the features of the platforms that they have launched. And then we have governments and policymakers as well. They come from an enforcement perspective, more or less, and these are the people who we expect to support us to put in place laws and regulations. to help us track and prosecute perpetrators of offenses on the internet, say like cyberbullying. We should be able to have laws in place that will enable us to track the people who are cyberbullying others and have them prosecuted. Otherwise, everything that we do is well and good, but then when we come to the phase of an offense actually was committed, then there is nothing for us to latch on to deter these people from continuing, then it will be pointless. So they also have a key role to play in this. And we have mobile network operators like ourselves. We also have an obligation to ensure that we provide tools to enable parents and children use the internet safely. And this is something that Safaricom is very passionate about because we have the biggest subscription in this country. And a lot of the children who will be using the internet will likely be on the Safaricom platform. So we have tried on our bit, I'll talk about that shortly, what we are doing to just make access to the internet through our network a safe experience for children. So at the time when COVID caused the schools to be closed, or the government closed the schools due to COVID, one of the things we did is we very quickly came up with some commercial propositions dedicated to educational content. So we came up with highly discounted bundles which parents could buy to allow their children access educational content. The beauty of that is that the bundle is dedicated to accessing certain URLs only. And so how does that keep your child safe? The child is not able to now veer out of the realm of that URL and start browsing other things. So we did that very quickly, and it has worked well. We also have a tool which comes hand in hand with the Safaricom Home Fiber, which is the SecureNet solution. So SecureNet enables a parent to define which websites that they would not want to be accessed through the home Wi-Fi. So because a lot of us have subscribed for home fiber, and we have our children accessing the internet there and doing their online classes through our home Wi-Fi, what you can do as a parent, and this also goes to answer some of the questions that were already shared with me beforehand, is to define a certain website. And these are any websites really. It's not only confined to websites that have adult content or have content on child sexual abuse. It could be any website that if you as a parent feel that you do not want your child to access or people in your house to access, you can list them there and then have them blocked out so that they can only access anything else apart from those ones that you have listed there. We have also signed up with an organization called the Internet Watch Foundation. And what the Internet Watch Foundation assists us to do is to blacklist certain websites from the dark web. As we are well aware, it's the dark web where all this explicit content is listed, and they find their ways to lure people through they do like secondary URLs, which then they use to reach certain websites, and then people can click on them, and you can find your child unknowingly navigating their way into the dark web. So what the Internet Watch Foundation does, it in real time takes down content from those websites. Additionally, it provides us with the URLs which we then block on our network, and we are able to protect our children who are browsing online. Lastly, Safaricom, in partnership with the Communications Authority and the other mobile network operators, that is Airtel and Telcom, and the GSMA, signed up for a We Care initiative. What the We Care initiative is an initiative that champions safety of children online. And so there are a number of actions that we all committed to undertake on it. And very soon we'll be seeing more and more tools to enable us protect our children online. Some of the things that we'll be carrying out aggressively is awareness of child safety measures that can be implemented by parents, by teachers, caregivers, and everyone who has a child in their care and has that child accessing the internet. I would like to conclude by saying that child safety online is a multi-stakeholder approach. It is not confined to one person or an industry. It is not something that we can say is a responsibility of the mobile network operators or is a responsibility of the regulator. It requires a collaborative approach where MNOs, the regulators, associations like CARA, and parents and teachers, and really everyone who is around a child collaborates to ensure that we keep our children safe. Reality is we cannot keep them away from the devices or gadgets. We cannot keep them away from the internet. And the internet is a beautiful place where they get to learn, they get to interact. We want Kenya to be one of the countries where we get, the next Mark Zuckerbergs and such big innovators coming from. And so we have to do our best to get them in the digital space and actively so that we can hone their skills, all the while keeping them safe and ensuring that they get the best of the internet and not the worst of it. And with that, I hand it over back to Kara. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Agnes, for that comprehensive presentation. Just a number of areas, but I think most importantly on what Safaricom is doing to ensure that they are supporting safety of children on internet. So I don't want to go through all the things that you said because of time, and I'm sure our participants have noted the issues. If there's anything that is presentation, like we said earlier, please drop that box and let be able to have a look at it. So with that, like I said, we also have in the house the people that we are talking about, the young ones who are using this internet on a regular basis. So before we go to our next presenter, I would want to give them just 5 or so minutes just to tell us the experience so that as we proceed, we're able to understand the context and also be able to understand some of the issues that they actually go through. So I want to invite Razoa Kokubanza. He's a grade 11 student from Garden Ridgeway Resident Association, just to share with us her experience using the internet, maybe some of the expectations she has in terms of making it safe and what we can do as various stakeholders to support that particular cause. So Razoa, can you hear me? And if you can you please take the floor just for 5 minutes?
Okay, I can hear you, thank you. So when coronavirus cases began to rapidly increase in countries all around the world, many people at my school, myself included, inappropriately joked about how we hoped the virus would come to Kenya so we could get out of school for a week or two. Unfortunately, our hopes are answered when the first case in Kenya was confirmed on March 12th. My school, Rosen Academy, had spring break the following week, so we thought we could only be home for 2 weeks rather than 1. That 2 weeks turned into a month, and before I knew it, our semester was officially going to be online. This virtual experience was mixed between my friends and I. Some of us were happy we didn't have to go to school, while others were sad because we wouldn't see each other for an undisclosed amount of time. After about 3 weeks of my virtual experience, after 3 weeks of my virtual experience, I was once again addicted to TikTok and Netflix. I spent more than 7 hours a day online, unrelated to school, and was sleeping at around 4 a.m. most nights, which progressed to 6 a.m. after about 2 weeks. I wasn't talking to most of my friends, and the ones I did talk to, I would speak with them for almost 10 hours on a FaceTime call while doing something else online. During this time, I knew I was using my phone and computer more than usual, but it wasn't significant of concern to me. While I was on my phone, I would mostly be on TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, or YouTube, and I never encountered any forms of bullying. And maybe that's because I wasn't replying to people as much. But one of my close friends did experience some online abuse. I won't go into too much detail, but she was texting someone who made her feel like she wasn't enough and that he was the only one who could help her be good enough. When she told me about this, we decided that the only solution was to block him so that he wouldn't have the opportunity to talk to her like that. After that, we thought that solved the problem, so we moved on. So social media has many risks, especially for younger users. It doesn't always have to be a person bullying or abusing you. Social media makes it easy to compare yourself to people who may be using filters or edits and don't even look like that. Making the internet safer for children is hard, and I'm aware that some applications and websites have age requirements to be accessed, but that doesn't stop anyone. It didn't stop me from making a Snapchat account when I was 12, although the age requirement was 13. So what can be done? You can't prevent people from posting certain things on their accounts, and you can't stop children from getting into those accounts, no matter the restrictions you place. And although blocking people helps, it doesn't really solve the problem. So the simple answer for me is to create an environment within your household where children feel comfortable telling their parents or guardian any negativity experienced while online, whether it's small or large. Once children are comfortable enough to talk to their parents or guardians about what they're experiencing, you can then talk through it and give them the affirmations they need, not only to get through that experience, but be able to handle the next one if it does happen. My god sister wrote a short story about her teenage experiences, and she wrote a few steps that stuck out to me. In her story, the 7 steps that helped her and hoped that would help others were: 1, to stop comparing yourself to others; 2, to not mind others' opinions; 3, to allow yourself to make mistakes; 4, to remember that your value doesn't lie and that your value is in your personality and your heart alone, not material things; 5, to not be afraid to let go of toxic people; 6, to process your fears and fully understand them; and 7, to trust yourself in decision making. These steps are hard to follow at times, but they are effective. The hardest part isn't starting the steps, but to follow through with them. And those steps aren't for children alone, but for anyone who is experiencing this online experience.
Thank you very much. I think that was awesome. And one thing that has struck me is a solution that I think we all need to take away as parents, creating an environment within your home where the children can be free with you and talk about a number of issues. I think that is a very, very powerful solution. Let me also ask Emmanuel Kuyumba, who's a Form 3 student, also share his experience. Emmanuel is from Syokimau Resident Associations, and just take 5 minutes to also just share with us experience with internet use and maybe what. Emmanuel.
Thank you. Good evening, my fellow panelists and audience. My name is Emmanuel Guyumba, studying at Mango High School, currently at my 3rd year. So I'm here to outline the various pros and cons of the internet to us teenagers during this time of pandemic. You'll all agree with me that the internet is so far the greatest social invention of all time. Personally, the internet has really enriched my understanding of the internet, of the world in lots of diverse ways. The internet definitely expands the horizon of many teenagers and how they perceive things. So I've been given 5 minutes, so you'll allow me to kindly jump in to the pros of internet use as a teenager. So number one of the advantages of the internet is, number one, it has enabled me personally to continue the cyclic learning even during this time of pandemic. You know, after the schools were shut down, we thought that it was never that serious. You know, we thought it was going to be a month thing, then we come back to school. But things were never that way. So the internet has allowed the cyclic learning, and by giving us a virtual platform where we can continue with our learning processes. Also, due to us teenagers being at home for a long time, the internet has enabled us to access information in different areas of interest through its powerful search engines. For example, Google. Unlike the old times where you will have to score through loads and loads of library books before you get the key information of what you really want. So the internet has really come in handy to providing a swamp of information where you can get all information easily and efficiently. Number 3, the internet has also led to, as personally, has led to the to the exposure of the religious aspect of church to the house, where I need not go to the church, but the church has come to me. where I can get spiritual guidance through various online churches and online meetings, through mentorships, yeah, and all that. Finally, the internet has enabled easy and efficient ways for teenagers to acquire goods and services easily and efficiently. For example, during this pandemic, we had some tournaments in my academy where I train for football, and I was able to acquire a variety of training kits, which they came in handy during our tournaments. You'll also agree with me that when I say that sometimes the internet will be the devil's workshop if used irresponsibly. So here are some of the cons that apply to us teenagers in many times. So now, first of all, due to high level of exposure and opening of the world, most of us have been exposed to harmful content of pornographic sites where you can easily access them without much struggle, which has affected our way of thinking, our way of seeing things, and our perspective generally in life. Second, the internet has brought about a deadly virus known as addiction, which has led to salvage of valuable time and resources. Addiction is something that has really catered itself in most of us, because you'll find most of the times, most of us are either, if you're not in your phone, you're in your laptop. If you're not in your laptop, you're in PlayStation or in just a gadget, which has really been bad for us. Another con is some teenagers through the internet have been exposed to cyberbullying. I'm not personally as victim, but many of us have been access to cyberbullying, which has led to the negative perception of their own personality and self-esteem. Some teenagers have also been exposed to negative relationships, which our parents may not be aware of, but they just assume. Finally, allow me to conclude there. And let me say, we're looking forward to your understanding and support as teenagers as we go through this journey of life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for sharing with us that useful information. I think you've stated very well the benefits of internet, but also the other side of it, the negative impact, especially for teenagers. And that is what we say from the horse's mouth. So I'm sure parents are listening and they're taking notes that might be useful to them moving forward. So having heard from our two youngsters, we want to continue with the other presenters. Unfortunately, Mr. Mayo is having problem coming on board. He's still trying to log in. So we will skip him for now and go straight to Ms. Caroline Muyanki from the Communications Authority of Kenya. I wait for Mr. Mayo to get his way on board. So Caroline is from the Communications Authority of Kenya, and she'll speak to us as a regulator. So Caroline, if you can hear me, we invite you to step forward and speak to us. Caroline?
Thank you very much, Henry. We really appreciate, as the Communications Authority, to be present here today to participate in this very important discussion. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll just take this opportunity to really appreciate your interest in this matter, and I'll just dive into my presentation. Henry, if I could be allowed to share my screen, thank you.
Hello, you can share now.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm around now, Mayo. Thank you.
Mr. Mayo, you are next.
Yes.
You,
Okay.
because
Okay.
so after this presenter, you are next. Just,
Okay, fine. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cheng. I will just go into my presentation. A lot has been said by Agnes Okello and the previous presenters, so I will not delve so much into those issues. I would just want maybe the people on the call to really appreciate the mandate and role of the authority. We are the regulator of the ICT sector, and more importantly, and the reason why we are here today is with regards to our consumer protection mandate. So just to give a context from a Kenyan perspective in terms of our accessibility to communication services, you can see that we are at 119% internet mobile penetration, seeing that most of our citizenry in Kenya have more than one mobile phone device. And we have about 30.52 million mobile money subscribers, 41 million internet service providers, internet subscribers, and you can clearly see the number of cybersecurity threats and advisories that have been issued by the authority. Indeed, you can see that we are quite a number of users of internet and communication services in Kenya, and access to communication services is ranked pretty highly within Africa. So with regards to children and the internet, as our presenter Emmanuel did mention, that ICT opens doors to great opportunities and allows young people to learn and to be creative and to get entertained. But there are quite a number of risks and vulnerabilities that exist. I would like to maybe take this opportunity to mention that CA, as the regulator of this sector, we have in place a program, a child online protection program, for which I will make further detail in my presentation. So with regards to COVID-19 having being an emerging issue and pandemic that has affected all countries and is a global issue, the regulator has put in place various mechanisms and interventions to ensure that Kenyans have continued access to communication services so as to have a near normal life experience, so to speak, so that you could be able to carry on with your work to some extent. One of the measures that the authority put in place was to facilitate the enhancement of capacity of communications networks so as to enable voice and data and internet services to be provided, seeing that everyone was now getting onto the internet space. And with this, we were able to provide the requisite resources to mobile and internet service providers for them to be able to provide this service. In addition, the authority waived costs and engaged the broadcast sector so that all public service announcements are broadcast at no cost. In addition, the Edu TV channel was also noted as a must-carry channel and is broadcast on all platforms. In addition, to facilitate communication within the entities that are giving advisory and information and services on COVID-19, the authority facilitated, waived the fees related to access to toll-free numbers, which is also a function that is domiciled within the authority. In addition, we engaged the courier industry with a view to reduce the tariffs of certain weight categories so that we could encourage home delivery of goods and services that Kenyans were buying online. In addition, we did provide regular advisories so as to protect children online, seeing that we did indeed note that more people were getting online and more young people were accessing the internet. I will now move quickly through the following slides, seeing that a lot has been discussed on this matter, but I just wanted to really, you to really appreciate and see that the authority has indeed acknowledged some of these issues that young people are experiencing online. As you can see, school closures affected all countries, and some having fully closed or partially closed, and as such, children were now accessing online learning, learning online. In Kenya, over 15 million young people were accessing e-learning services, were actually affected, sorry, by the school closures. So as a parent, what kind of communication devices does your child access? What kind of online platforms does your child use? What kind of media does my child access? These are very important questions that each parent or guardian or caregiver should have in mind or actually have knowledge of. So I will just delve into some behavioral aspects, though some have been highlighted, but I wanted to just give participants some very important tool to enable them really appreciate how young people access and use communication services. So in terms of our experiences, as a young person, what do they do online? What do others do online? What do they see? What do they say? How do they feel? And do they have any fears and concerns when accessing communication services? As Henry and as Emmanuel and Rosa has pointed out, you can see that they are online on a daily basis. They are addicted to communication devices and services. Their phones and internet are the central source of happiness when it comes to their just daily lives. Some of the young people believe that the world of the Instagram and Facebook and YouTube is more alive than the real life that they are living. Social media activities, as had earlier been mentioned, are downloading games, music, watching movies, predominantly on the internet. There's a migration from Facebook to Instagram and other social media platforms like TikTok. They are exposed to adult content at a very early age. And preteens are not afraid of the online world. You have heard what they have just told us. They are not afraid. Some of the children and youth consciously contribute to undesirable online practices. So as has been highlighted, there are indeed various risks and vulnerabilities. I will move very quickly through these slides since some of them have been mentioned, but most importantly is the nature in which those engagements carry on online. They could be sexual in nature. They could actually touch on the values you as a parent has instilled in a child, but the kind of values that they are exposed to by the interactions they have could be significantly different from the ones that you have inculcated in your child. They could also be exposed to other risks that are commercial in nature. I will now speak to the specific security concerns when it comes to e-learning. You will appreciate that when it comes to security concerns, users are the most, what I could say is, they are the most vulnerable component in this whole learning ecosystem. In this ecosystem, we have administrators, IT personnel, we have teachers, learners, the content developers, parents, school administrators, among others. If you have a weak point at this level, the level of security of those e-learning platforms could be compromised. Other points we may need to note is with regards to accessibility of the platforms or the learning information. What kind of authentication is required? Are you able to use specific login details that are only known to you? Is the information also resident with the school? How is it that you're able to safeguard this kind of information? When it comes to confidentiality, we are concerned here about protection from exposure. Is your information being shared out there? When it comes to integrity, the kind of information or learning material that is resident in the learning management systems, is it secure? Can it be altered by other participants who are not part of the learning ecosystem? When it comes to availability of the platforms, a school's online platform could also be attacked by way of ensuring that this platform is not available. When it comes to securing the origin of data information, a practical example is in the case where a teacher sends an assignment to a pupil or a student or a learner. Is learner able to do the assignment and actually send it back? Is there an instance where somebody could interfere or come into the middle of that kind of transaction or communication and alter the information? Were you able to submit the information within the timelines? Other concerns would be around privacy. You have all your student information, your child's information, the parent's information, next of kin information, resident in those learning systems. Are they secure? How does the school ensure that they are secured? How, as a parent, are you sure that that information is secured? So in this kind of e-learning situation, the dangers here are that learning is disrupted, accounts may be taken over, and you may lose data or information. So let me take this moment to delve a little deeper into the consequences of this kind of risks and vulnerabilities, and what kind of behavior and emotions are evoked in a child when they experience abuse and exploitation online. They become vulnerable, they have shame. We talked of, I think one of the previous presenters talked about suicidal tendencies, depression, loss of confidence. Some may even be emotionally scarred for life. With regards to their behavior, if they're exposed to some of these risks and vulnerabilities, they change their attitude towards technology. Their tendency to adapt to technology reduces. They avoid the internet. They are reluctant to leave the house. They suddenly delete all their social media profiles and accounts, and they have secretive behavior, especially when carrying out online activities. So when it comes to child online protection and safety, we have to look at two varied viewpoints. We need to mitigate these risks. But how do we do this if indeed we want our children to learn, we want them to be entertained, we want them to participate in this online space? They have digital rights, they have freedom of expression, they have rights to access to information. That is a very delicate balance that we may need to have. So I will just go into the legal and legislative framework on child online protection issues. There is the Kenya Constitution, where there are provisions relating to freedom, the rights of freedom and to freedom and security. There are provisions with regards to child protection. There is the National Cybersecurity Strategy, which is aligned to the global cybersecurity agenda. The National ICT Policy Guidelines, which were recently gazetted, speak to child online protection and cybersecurity issues. There is the National Child Policy that speaks to child protection, and there are the As detailed there in the presentation, there are the pieces of legislation that go towards protection of children. Notable is also the programming code that spells out how broadcasters should be able to ensure that there's appropriate programming for young people to be able to access within the watershed period. Because of time, I will go straight into my the core of this presentation that speaks on the authority's Child Online Protection Program. The program has in place various activities. One of them is the development of a national strategy on child online protection in Kenya. This is a strategy that we seek to develop in partnership with the International Telecommunications Union. This is an activity that is awaiting cabinet approval so that we could progress on this matter. When it comes to campaigns and awareness, we have launched a program called Be the Cop. And based on this program, we have carried out numerous activities. And we look forward to a new awareness program that will target young people and target parents and teachers as secondary audiences. As a regulator, we have put in place regulatory interventions to protect young people online. One are the industry measures on child online protection. As you have heard from Agnes's presentation, they have put in place some mechanisms to protect young people online. We have also engaged internet service providers to do the same, and you will, in the coming months, see a lot of information coming from your internet service provider. You may also make requests from your internet service provider to determine what kind of protection mechanisms they have put in for you. We have also, as a regulator, planned to develop industry regulations and guidelines around this so as to ensure that our communication service providers are able to design programs that are child-centered. We also have, in partnership with industry, implemented the We Care initiative. Agnes Okello did mention our joint activity in this matter. When it comes to research, we have engaged the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics with a view to develop or undertake a national research on child online protection and their behavior online, as this will inform our programs and campaigns. With regards to capacity development, the authority has developed a child online protection training program that is available at Afralti. We are currently converting the program from a class-based program to an online training program, and we hope that this will be accessible very soon in the coming months. And parents are welcome to participate in this fully sponsored CA program. When it comes to teachers, we are also in the process of developing a training course for teachers, and that is work in progress. With regards to the national curriculum, the authority has provided input to the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development so that this can be incorporated in the national children's curriculum. When it comes to the authority's consumer outreach activities, we have numerous awareness activities, some being the county ICT consumer forums. We have held 18, we have gone to 18 counties, and this has been one of the themes and information that we disseminate during these county forums. We also participate in exhibitions, the Kenya National Drama and Music Festivals. You will appreciate that some of your children may have had performances, choral verses, and drama so as to speak to this theme. We also participate in teacher conferences and other outreach activities. Ladies and gentlemen, we also disseminate consumer information relating to child online protection. The information can also be available on the authority's website. We also have in place other initiatives with regards to sponsorships and review of school safety manual. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to also inform you of the National Kenya Computer Incidents Response Team Coordination Center. This is most commonly known as the National Cybersecurity Center. It is domiciled at the authority, and it provides it implements the national cybersecurity policies and regulations. And this is where we encourage our Kenyans to report any online incidences relating to anything that you experience online. In addition, there are other reporting mechanisms. We work very closely with the Anti-Human Trafficking Child Protection Unit. This is a part of the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, and you can see their contact there. You may also contact them with any incidences that you may come across. With regards to your children's experience, and if they do need any support, we have the Childline Kenya. It's a toll-free number. You can call free 116. As a parent, we encourage you to advise your child to also call that number in the event that they also need some psychosocial support. In the event a child is required to be removed from a situation that is of danger to them, you may also call this number to report. There is also the National Police Service, and as I had earlier mentioned, the National Cybersecurity Center. So as I come to the conclusion, and I think I'll just gloss over the rest of my presentation since some of these points have been mentioned.
I think I just use over the and go to the next present. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Sorry?
I'm saying I just run through them in a minute or so.
Okay. So yes. So as we have earlier discussed and mentioned, we can empower our children. Our children need to be empowered so that they can be able to protect themselves. That is a very important line of defense. When it comes to parents and guardians, a lot has been said, and Agnes Okela has mentioned quite a number of things that you need to do as a parent, but most importantly is you need to also report the online incidences. We need those kind of reports so that they can be able to shape the way in which we are able to address issues in the market, as well as address your specific case and concern. I will just talk a little about parents and technology. As a parent, it's important for you to be able to be abreast of the mechanisms of protection. You have heard from our one of our service providers, Safaricom, they have mentioned about the tools that they have, but as a parent, there are quite a number of tools that you can leverage. There is the Google Parent and Online Safety page. It provides a lot of information about how you can track how your child is using the internet. The Facebook also has details on how, as a parent, and parental tips on how you can be able to protect your child. The level of protection basically is at the device level, at the network level, and also as a parent. With regards to eLearning, there are quite a number of things I had wanted to talk about, but because of time, I'll not delve so much into this. But as a parent, it's important to participate in the development of the eLearning environment in your school. So I'll just close by asking, what is your child's digital footprint? Do you know, are you able to determine what kind of websites or information that they've been able to post online? So just to conclude, I will just give you a glimpse of what is coming in the future. It's important that we instill this kind of information in our young people, because we are now moving into what is called the fourth industrial revolution. This is where our lives would basically be online. And you can be able to access a lot of information regarding this from the Digital Economy Blueprint for Africa, which is available on the Ministry of Information website. We are moving into the digital age where we are fusing our real lives with the digital space. And it is important that as parents, we are able to ensure that the young people of the future can be trustworthy, they can be responsible, and they can be able to productively use the internet so as to leverage technology for a better economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caroline. I think that was a very, very comprehensive presentation. I have seen requests on the chat box that we share that presentation on email because I think it will be useful for us to go through it in our quiet time. There's a lot of information that is very necessary for various stakeholders, especially the parents. So we'll share that presentation with you, and you can be able to have a look at it. So we've really gone so much in terms of time, and we still have Mr. Mayo to give perspective from parents. So Mr. Mayo, if you don't mind, I request you to try and keep your presentation brief, maybe 5 to 7 minutes, so that we can just pick a few questions and then close the session. We are almost over our time. So Bwana Mayo, please take the floor. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, you can hear you. Proceed.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you,
Hello?
Mr. Mayo.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay, sorry for coming in late because of internet. And now I'm in internet and COVID-19. My highlights is that we are living in extraordinary times. We have a rudimentary mandate to protect our children in the way they interact and live as a fundamental way of having a healthy and stable society. COVID-19 pandemic has created the largest disruption of education system in history, affecting nearly 1.6 billion learners in more than 109 closures of schools and other learning spaces have been impacted 94% of the world's student population, up to 99% in low and lower middle income countries. Kenya is not an exception. Schooling has been interrupted for about 7 months now, disrupting approximately 7 million learners across the country. As schools are closed and lockdowns imposed, many children and young people are spending increased time at home. Much of that time might be spent being able to connect online provides valuable opportunities for children to learn and socialize. But it also comes with certain risks, such as online sexual abuse, cyberbullying. At the same time, to fill the learning gap in this period, parents and caregivers are desperately supervising or facilitating some form of learning through radio, TV, and digital platforms, Zoom, Google, YouTube, etc. In instance where parents are teachers, one-on-one learning has been engaged. There are lots of great ways to play, but there are risks. Internet risks children that may be exposed. I have about 5 of them, and let me mention them. Being able to connect online provides valuable opportunities to learn, play, and socialize with friends and peers, and access information and support, and is therefore extremely important for children and young people. However, spending time online comes with risks that include: 1, online sexual abuse. They may be approached by strangers or by people they know who have sexual interests, messages and posts which can increase stress and feelings of isolation. 3, risk-taking online behavior. Physical distancing and lack of face-to-face interaction with friends and partners may lead to them to taking risks or doing things that might otherwise not do online. For example, through sexting and sharing nude and sexual photos and videos. 4, potentially harmful content. This includes accessing, being sent, and sharing harmful content such as incitement to suicide and self-harm, violence, or xenophobic content, and marketing that is not appropriate for children. And the last one is children's privacy may also be at greater risk. Many of the apps, including those privacy risks to users, and may result in their data being compromised or in personal details and information that may not usually be shared online, becoming easily accessed and exploited. Our mitigation. Let me now come to our mitigation measures that can be used to ensure safety of our children. And I'm giving this as a the National Parent Association, representing parents in public schools in the country, has a major stake in the welfare of learners. As the National Parent Association, we are keen to ensure that there is sufficient consideration to promote and safeguard every child's right to education. Health and safety are set out in the Convention on the Rights of a Child. Article 53(2) of the Kenya Constitution 2010 stipulates child's best interests are of the paramount importance in every matter concerning the child. Online learning environments are safe for our children. Below are the mitigations, measures and tips that can help us keep our children safe during times of online. 1, agree as a family on boundaries and expectations. We need to discuss and agree on much time your child spend online, for how long they can play games, how long they can spend chatting, and how long they need to spend doing school or homework. 2, speak to your child about online safety. Now is an important opportunity to engage and communicate with your child about what they are doing online. Safe and age-appropriate platforms, websites, social media, and steps they take to stay safe online. Ask them if they are worried about anything and show that you are available to listen and about their online friends. 3, understanding and encouraging positive social values. Respect, empathy, good communication, and conflict resolution can all help and keep children safe online. 4, having said that, become familiar with online safety tools. These include the safe search option that most browsers and common search engines have, and parental controls on devices, especially for younger children. Useful tools for keeping your children safe on Facebook, as well as ideas for talking to your children, about being good citizens online and building their skills. The 5th one is know where to seek help and assistance for both you and your child. Most social media platforms and apps have built-in reporting tools. Visit the FAQ to find out more. 6, it is important for that you are aware of any signs of your child being upset or distressed from their time online. It is important that your child is able to contact and assess support. Number 7, identify trusted people, either adults or peers your child can talk to. Accept that your child is not always most comfortable speaking to you as a parent. And that one, I must tell all our parents that this is the hardest part of it. about some of the things they may consider, they may encounter online. So they might not be that free about what they encounter in online to tell you as a parent. Number 8, understand the privacy risk. While reading the privacy policies of the different video and communication tools your child is using would be ideal. A quick online search can provide the key information. Make sure that when your child is using any new application, their location cannot be identified or used to trace where they might be. Most importantly, ensure that the video turned off at the end of the session. Number 9, respect your children's privacy online. Sharing family images and personal stories relating to lockdown and related challenges through social media is often a way of remaining connected. When sharing your own stories and photos, you do not share photos that may compromise your child or affect their own privacy and protection. 10, play your children online. Don't think of online games as a child's only pastime. This also presents opportunity to play games with your child. Ask online. This offers useful opportunity to talk to and engage your child about their world and what is important to them. The final one is be proactive in speaking and engaging with your children during this period. There are a lot of opportunities and benefits that internet and technology can offer during the lockdown and beyond. But these are greatly enhanced when children are equipped with the right emotional tools and knowledge to make most good of them. In conclusion, the shock of COVID-19 crisis on education has been unprecedented. It has set the clock back on the attainment of international education goals. And disproportionately affected the poorer and most vulnerable. And yet, education community has proven resilient, laying groundwork for the rebound. To this end, engaging parents and other stakeholders and leveraging into this strengthens their ongoing involvement in instruction, motivation, accountability, and can serve to complement the school system and classroom-based learning through creating, enabling, and safe online learning platform for their children. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayo, for those very useful tips, the parents, and I'm sure they are all taking notes. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are at 5:30 when we're supposed to stop. So I'm going to request that maybe we just give us another 10 minutes so that we can just pick 1 or 2 questions from the chat box. And then you are going to have the panelists make their closing remarks as they respond to some of those questions. For the questions that we had received in advance, what we are going to do, and as done previously, is that we will get responses from the panelists, which we will then share through our newsletter and, of course, through our other communication channels, because I know they cannot respond to all the questions at this particular city because of time. So the panelists are able to see some of the questions on the chat box. So as they make their closing remarks, I'm going to ask them to respond to maybe 1 or 2 questions that have been posted by the participants. So just to pick a few of them is Juliet Wamiri is saying, my biggest concern is the addiction as put by Emmanuel. Our children, especially those in college who feel they are now adults and demand privacy. How do we protect the youth? And I think that has been touched on in the course of the presentation. And then what are the mechanisms by Safaricom internet provider to protect children and youth online? Again, there was a talk on that in the presentation, but you can just wrap up as we maybe make 1 or 2 clarifications. How can parents access the Communication Authority online training program? Caroline should be able to highlight that. Grace of Safaricom mentioned, I think it's Agnes, not Grace. Agnes of Safaricom mentioned the possibility of Safaricom blocking some sites. I would like to know how. Currently subscribing to all fiber. Yeah, it's great. Meant for Agnes that question. And then how can Safaricom block sites that are not child friendly when using home fiber? Yes, that's also a question from Maria Murenga. So ladies and gentlemen, to move this forward, I'm going to request each of the panelists, based on the questions that have been posted on the chat box, and of course, what we've had in terms of the presentation, to make your closing remarks, but also respond to some of the questions, maybe in a cross-cutting way, as that has been posted by participants. So I request Agnes Okello, some questions that will be directed to you as Safaricom. So if you can just touch on some of the questions as you also wind up the remarks in maybe in about 2 or 3 minutes. Agnes, please.
Thank you very much, Henry. So in response to the questions, actually all the questions that have been posed to Safaricom are with respect to blocking of the websites that we do not want our children to access. So I had talked about one tool that Safaricom has implemented, and it is called SecureNet. So if you are a subscriber of Safaricom Home Fiber, you can go to the Safaricom website, and where we have Home Fiber, you will find SecureNet, or you can just search SecureNet Safaricom, and it will take you directly to the link. Then it will provide you a step-by-step guide on how you can subscribe to SecureNet. What SecureNet does for you as a parent is it gives you parental control. You are able to define the websites that you don't want to be accessed through the home fiber. And so I know we are very passionate about the adult websites or websites that have child abuse content on them. But also we have our values or our principles in every family. And maybe we feel like we don't want certain kind of pressures on our children, so we don't want them accessing certain lifestyle websites that might, start putting pressure on them, and we can block that. We can define the website that we don't want and block them. SecureNet will cost you only 200 shillings a month, and this will be billed together with your home fiber subscription. Now, as a parting shot, I would just like to commend Mr. Mayo for giving parents the various points or tools that they need to do. As I said earlier, child online safety is a multi-stakeholder approach, and that is why CARA has brought us as a mobile network operator. They have brought a parent, and they have brought the regulator. They have brought even the children themselves who we are discussing, because it is everyone's responsibility, even the child themselves, to ensure that they are safe. But I think the biggest obligation and the most difficult one lies with the parent, because we are the ones with our children. We know what we want our children to access or not. We know the psyche of our children. We know the morals or the principles that we have imparted on our children. And so we have to implement a number of the things that Mr. Mayo has spoken about. We have to get close to our children. We have to get people who are trusted to us, trusted adults who they can talk to if at all they're not able to open up to us. So as my parting shot, I would urge everyone to play their part and play it aggressively. As Safaricom, we are not resting because as I pointed out earlier, we are the ones with the biggest subscriber base in this country. And so that means a lot of your children are on the Safaricom network. As a responsible corporate citizen, we feel it is our duty and obligation to ensure all our subscribers are safe in their use of the internet. And so you can rest assured that we will do our part. We are partnering with anyone. We are knocking on doors of anyone who cares to listen to us, to empower us, to implement tools, to come up with laws, to put in place initiatives that will enable us secure our future, because those children are our future customers. And so we have to take good care of them today and now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Agnes, for those responses and closing remarks. And we certainly will be able to continue engaging on this subject. Like you say, as the operator, most of the subscribers are with Safaricom. So we need to see how we can be able to it in a constructive way. So I'm going to ask Caroline to also just make one or two responses as she makes her closing remarks, and maybe just to pick one or two questions that perhaps would be useful to participants. There's a question, what is the role of CAK in universal internet access to schools? And then there's also a question about some of the software or mobile app that parents can install in student devices to protect them from harmful online content. I think this could be a question for Safaricom, but you can see if you can respond to it. And then, is it possible to compel ISPs to have a shared infrastructure for their product delivery instead of having several setups across the harmony? So those are some of the questions I'm just picking randomly. But Caroline, I'm sure you're able also to see the question on the chat box. So you can just respond in a general way as also make a closing remark. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Henry, for that. I will just respond to some of the questions you have highlighted. With regards to the authority, the Communications Authority and internet access, indeed, the authority has in place the Universal Service Fund that is administered at the authority, and the fund is as one of the activities seeks to support access to ICT services and promote capacity building and innovation in ICT. The authority has partnered with the Ministry of Education with a view to providing internet access to schools through the school broadband project. The project is aimed at supporting provision of 5 Mbps internet service to public schools, and so far 884 schools have been connected. With regards to the question on softwares and mobile applications that parents can install, we do, as the regulator, encourage communication service providers to provide this kind of information. And I'm very glad that Safaricom has been able to highlight the tools. As I had earlier mentioned, we have initiated an activity that will bring to the fore this kind of information. So the information will be availed in a month or so. The authority is not in a position to recommend any product and services, seeing that we encourage that consumers make the right choice. However, we shall endeavor to ensure that this service is availed in the market. You would, however, be able to access some information regarding how to make an informed choice by accessing the KESAT website, which I will post on the chat. With regards to the questions on compelling ISPs to have shared infrastructure for deployment of shared infrastructure, I would like to mention that indeed the authority has in place some mechanisms that go towards encouraging communication service providers to share infrastructure. And this is an activity that is progressively going on and being implemented by the authority. With regards to my closing remarks, I would like to encourage parents, guardians, and young people to report incidences. From our consumer behavior studies that we have carried out, we note that consumers and Kenyans like complaining to their friends, relatives, and all other people, except the authority that is responsible for a certain matter. So we would like to request that you report. I will post within the chat the email addresses and the contacts that you can use to report incidences. This will help your child. This will help all children, seeing that we shall put in place the requisite mechanisms to safeguard children or mitigate those risks. We also would like the support of parents in instilling the desirable online behavior and values to our young people. You have seen in my presentation that in the years to come, we shall leverage a lot more on technology. We shall be living more or less online, and we would like to have an ecosystem that is having a lot of trusted people, a lot of responsible internet users, and as such have in place the requisite cybersecurity mechanisms. But ensuring that there is a safe ecosystem is very important, and it is important that we start very early when our children are young. So that is my parting shot, and I really appreciate, and you're welcome to reach out to the authority for any information that you require. I will also post that email on request for information on the chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Please share the information you talked about, and we'll also be happy to share any other information that our participants that we may have of Competition Authority. So, Mr. Mayo, could you please make your closing remarks? Mr. Mayo there? Oh, I think it dropped off, so it's not in. Mr. Mayo, I can see you back. We are asking that you make a closing remark. You able to hear us? Unmute or we proceed?
Can you hear me?
Yes, proceed, Mr. Mayo. Closing remarks. Please.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. I think I have two comments to make. One is I want to encourage parents to create time to play games with their children. That is one. Number two, I also want to say that let's identify people whom we can trust so that our children can comfortably speak to them so that you will know exactly what they're going through. Because I know most children, through our own research, are not comfortable speaking to us as their parents. So I will only ask each one of us as parents to identify a trusted people or peers of these children so that we will be getting information from those people. And lastly, I want to answer a question from Alice Wako, which say that how do we keep children safe from internet risks? I would say that changing the settings of the gadgets is one. Can be used in tracking the activities. You can change the setting of the gadgets. And that's the simplest way of tracking the activities of these children. Number two, it can also include filtering internet and browser settings to allow them access the content that is suitable for them. This includes safe search option that most browsers and common search engines have, and parental control on the devices. If we have parental control on the devices, we can minimize the risks of internet to our children. Otherwise, I was very happy, even though I came late to the meeting. It was very productive. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayo, for those useful closing remarks. So, ladies and gentlemen, because of time, we want to come to a close of this session. Allow me to thank all of you, the participants, for creating time to be here with us, and of course, being patient to up to this particular point. I hope that you've learned something. I hope that it has been useful for you, this particular session, and we certainly look forward to engaging some more with you. Like I mentioned, we will share the presentations by the panelists. We'll also share with them the questions, the ones that have come through chat box and the ones that are sent earlier, and ask for their response. We will then also share with you through our various communication channels. We also have a recording of this particular session. I've seen some people requesting for the recording. We'll share that, and so that you can also share with your various members, in the associations. Of course, we will ensure that as much information as we can as shared with you moving forward. So let me also thank our other panelists, Agnes Okello from Safaricom, thank you very much for the useful presentation. And of course, we also appreciate Safaricom for the partnership that has enabled us to have this particular session. So we are very grateful for that. I also want to thank Razoa Kokubanza for sharing with us her experience with the internet. I think that was an eye-opener for parents, particularly. And we thank you very much for creating time to be with us and for sharing your perspective. Emmanuel Guyumba, thank you very much for your perspective, for sharing with us your views on the pros and the cons of internet. And that has been very informative and useful to us. I thank Mr. Nicholas Mayo, the chairman of National Parents Association, for the tips that you've shared with us, very useful tips. And we definitely have taken a lot of notes on that. Let me also thank Caroline Muriaki from Communications Authority of Kenya. You have shared a lot of useful information. And I'm sure this presentation, once shared with the participants, will be very useful. They'll be able to go through it and pick what they need to use. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our session. And just allow me to thank you once again for being with us. And we will have another session of webinar. Like I said, we are having this partnership with Safaricom, and we've lined up a series of webinar sessions touching on different topical issues that are of interest to our members and the public. So next month, we'll notify you again to join us for another session so that we can continue learning and sharing information and ideas. So thank you very much for being with us, and we look forward to hosting you again next time. Asanteni sana, and you're free now to log out. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.